accountability of that regulator is also ensured. In this country, I honestly feel that the question of accountability of regulator has not been properly addressed. That also needs to be addressed.
You're saying many different things in one answer, right, sir?
Yes.
So you're saying, for instance, if I was to use chit funds as just an example, I'm not making this only about chit funds, but are you saying then that ideally you should have been empowered, which is SEBI should have been empowered with full powers to be able to regulate chit fund activity in this country under the CIS sort of umbrella regulation, if I may put it that way, because chit fund is also regulated by state governments, etc. So it's a slightly chaotic space. Are you also saying, when you say accountability, are you saying that other regulators that were supposed to look at chit funds, whether they're central or state, have not done the job they were mandated to do?
I leave this last interpretation to your wisdom. But coming to CIS and chit funds, if you look at the SEBI Act 11 Section AA, it has several exemptions.
Yes.
Chit funds are exempted, cooperatives are exempted, nidhis are exempted.
Yes.
So in that background, and when these exemptions are there, the responsibility is of the state governments. In case of CIS activities in Bengal and in the Northeast, SEBI has been taking action very seriously for last 2 years. But look at the type of problems we encountered. In one case, district courts passed injunction orders against SEBI's orders. Now, under the SEBI Act, the power of appeal against any direction that we issue lies with the Securities Appellate Tribunal and the Supreme Court. But district courts are passing.
But I thought that's not allowed under the SEBI Act,
It's illegal. So what do you do as SEBI? If there has been an injunction, you go to the High Court, you request for that to be vacated. It takes months.
I understand that.
In one case, we got it vacated. The High Court was so peeved that they also awarded a punishment, of a monetary penalty for the people who had gone there. But look at this. Immediately they went to a district court, another district. And now 11 districts they have been able to get stay orders. We have been able to vacate 6 or 7 out of them.
But it's a long drawn process.
It's a long drawn out process. Yeah. And I think SEBI Act has to be strengthened to deal with situations.
We're talking about SEBI's mandate, or the first part of its mandate being protecting investors. That's a fairly big job. Part of that job you have attempted to do by introducing the idea of a safety net mechanism for the IPO market because of some practices that you saw taking place in the IPO market which hurt, you thought, retail investors. You have not notified this safety net mechanism. It has not become mandatory. Yet some companies are being asked, or some IPOs are being asked to provide for a safety net mechanism. We're in some grey area here. What do you intend to do with this mechanism? Will you mandate it, or will you continue on a case-by-case basis asking IPOs to do it?
A mandatory safety net mechanism on which we had put out our papers has received very strong opposition. Right. From various segments of society. People are saying equity is a risk instrument. Why do you provide a safety? But our current regulations do provide for voluntary safety net. So 1 or 2 examples that you have in mind, that is under the voluntary safety net mechanism. Which
so SEBI has not asked these IPOs to provide for a safety net? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, no?
I mean, those are subjective matters. I don't think whether I can answer that. But
you haven't nudged these IPOs towards providing for a safety net?
Let me put it this way. We have come out now, which was not there till about a year ago, with a mechanism that if we feel that a DRHP or an IPO application is not in conformity with our requirements, or certain important things are not disclosed, then we can reject an offer document.
You put those thoughts you put out.
Because of the fear. Because once you are rejected, as a merchant banker you get a bad name, as a corporate you can't come back again for the next 12 months, you lose your fees. So that fear is perhaps bringing some of the corporates who were expecting, for example, very high valuation, they have come forward.
Whilst talking about investors, you've mandated a committee to look into combining different portfolio routes. There is the thought process of making one route applicable. You know, parallelly, we've seen the introduction of QFI over the last year and a half. It hasn't done well. It's been a fairly dud route, so to speak. It hasn't gotten the response that you want. Are you coming around to the point of view that there should be one foreign portfolio investor route, and that one route is all that it will take? So simplify the process altogether.
Yes, this is part of the budget announcement as well. So there will be one route now. And coming to QFIs, part of the reason QFI has not been so successful is because of the requirements of know your customer. So we are working not only at one route, we are also trying to simplify the know your client requirements for foreign investors. And basically we will be going towards what is called the risk-based KYC rather than a rule-based KYC.
Which means?
Which means that depending upon the vulnerability of a particular investor, the type of questions which will be asked to him. If you are, for example, a sovereign wealth fund or a foreign government agency who is investing versus somebody who has no track record, who is not regulated, not registered with any entity in his home country, maybe more questions will be asked.
In the last year and a half, you've introduced new requirements in schemes of arrangement which give minority shareholders a bigger say. You've cracked down on qualified accounts and you've put out a very aggressive set of corporate governance guidelines as a discussion paper. What is your, forward-looking governance agenda, and will those guidelines that you've put out, are they likely to become, mandatory?
That is the dilemma of a regulator. If you like something, you want it to be done in a hurry. At the same time, you were criticized that you didn't have effective consultation. Today I read an editorial, and there are also recommendations of FSLRC that every clause of every regulation should have an explanatory note, and there should be wider consultation. SEBI does a consultation, but it's not good enough. Right. I would like to err, especially on corporate governance side, on a wider consultation, more detailed consultation.
Call and put options are, the last time we spoke, you said it'll happen in a month. That was a year ago. Finally, it's going to become a reality. What is it that you would like to see done in that note that finally comes out of the government? And what is will there have to be a change in the SCRR, or will it just be a SEBI circular that will be required?
It will be a change in this SCRR, which we are now empowered to promulgate. I also hear media reports that government has now decided.
You mean they're only just media reports? Government has not reached out to you?
I have not received any formal communication. I'm waiting for that.
You're waiting for that?
Yes.
Okay. What about, two areas that we're still waiting to hear from you? You did a big expose on GDRs, cracked down on it in a big way. We don't know if you're relooking at that route or looking to put in any new safeguards. So that's one part. And the second part, which continues to confuse the markets a little bit, is SEBI's position on both affirmative as well as negative control. On
GDR, for example, there is a consultation going on between government and RBI and SEBI. Hopefully government will be able to announce something very quickly. On affirmative and negative rights, basically we are looking at what is control. And I would agree that control has to be defined in a sharper way, although it's not very easy to do that. We are working on that.
Would mean what, sir? Like maybe a guideline note or something like that?
Some guidelines on that.
All of this in your Silver Jubilee year?
Silver Jubilee year.
Thank you.
You should expect a lot in the Silver Jubilee
All right. We hope to be very busy following all your activities. Thank you very much, sir, and congratulations again.
All right, so that's speaking with the SEBI chairman, UK Sinha, on SEBI completing 25 years and a whole host of